Hey everybody, Dustin Young here with Lone Roamer, and we are going to do a walk around on my wife's Yeti SB130 Brunch Ride. That's right, Brunch Ride. Why is it a brunch ride? Well, because when we bought it, it was a lunch ride. But we still have the lunch ride rear travel length, but we've gone back to 150 because my wife's about this tall. And so getting the front end down and getting the weight on the front. Hey man, if you ride a Yeti, you know, weight on the front or ass off the back and you're in trouble. So, you know, you got to get these bikes set up right. We're going to do a walkthrough because this is not how this bike comes anymore. This thing is very customized to fit her very well. So if you're thinking about buying one of these and your significant other or your kid starting to race is, you know, 5'2", 5'3", you know, and you're like, oh, I don't know, you know, the Yeti's a big bike. It'll fit. Let's just talk about a few things that'll make it fit really well. One, Fox 36, that's a lot of fork. It's a lot of fork. And unless you're gonna be dropping off some big stuff, it's a lot of fork. So ditch it, run it with a pike. Run it with a Fox 34, either one, right? The other thing, run a pike, run a secus. You got a smaller, lighter rider, man, there you go. Get that secus on and get raging. The secus really fixes a lot of the small bump and it helps the thing stay down towards its mid-stroke so you're not riding high. I mean, these bikes need you on the front end. Why also then be forced upright? Because this air is pushing you up and making it too hard to ride. So you know, she's got some nice Industry 9 hubs made in America. Love it. Industry 9 hubs. We do have the XTR rotor center locks. We are one carbon wheels made on the North American continent and badass wheels. Just saying, they are badass wheels. She's been crashing around on these things, literally crashing them, smashing them at North Star, taking this bike all over the place, all over Tahoe, rim smacks, you name it, because she runs like no air pressure. She runs like 14 and 17 or something. And they're still perfectly true a year later. So you want an amazingly well-built set of wheels that's priced right and made on the North American continent by hand, we are one wheels. You can't go wrong. So we got a secus, RockShox Pike Ultimate. So it's got all the fancy stuff. This is a 2021. The bike is a 2019. We bought them at the end of 19. And you know, since new bikes are, we'll just keep them for a while till this bike craze gives away. She's running the Yeti bars still because they're a nice low drop. The next thing would be to go to flat bars, but since these have a nice low rise, we're there. 40 millimeter Renthal stem. The Code RSCs that it came with, didn't change those, but she is running all axis. So she's got an axis dropper with the axis shifter. She got the axis rear derailleur. She got an XO1 axis rear derailleur. We did go to a RockShox Super Deluxe in the back with a tractive tune and a magnet can. Again, if you're a lighter rider, this is a big deal. Also, if you're a smaller rider, the standover height of this bike, my wife is literally 5'2", and she can stand over this bike comfortably, just fine, no issues. So, you know, this is a size small, so don't be afraid to, you know, get a shorter rider on this bike. It's gonna fit really well. 6C cranks from Raceface. The reason they're 6Cs, how the hell else do you get a 165 mil crank? Well, now you buy an E-wing because they make them. But you know, you've always had to run a heavier downhill crank because it seems like if you want a cross-country weighted crank, which would be fantastic for her, you go 170 or 175. Hey, mountain bike industry, not everybody is 6 foot. There, we got that out there. So, you know, she could probably run a 160 mil crank. It would get her seat height even better. A lot of stuff would be really good. I run 165s at 5'8" on almost everything except a true cross-country bike. So it is just ridiculous with these low bottom brackets to build a size small bike and still run a 170 crank. It's just ridiculous. Let's just leave it at that. She is running the specialized seat. I always do a bad job. It's not the power. It's the other version. It's got that nice padding in the middle. I'll find it. Hold on. I won't. Anyway, so she's running the specialized women's version. I don't know if it was a women's version because I rode one. She had an extra one, and it was By the way, so comfy. Like the dude parts loved it. So you might actually want to think about trying one. So pretty awesome. In the top cap, so this is, I did thread it. She is running one up EDC. We need a new one of these, so it's not in here right now. This is the piece that goes in the bottom so that everything stays stable. But she is running that. Set of Rev grips. I'm trying to give her all the comfort, all the movement. You know, she's about 2 years into real serious riding. And they make a really thin grip. So instead of a lot of times with a thin grip, you got to go to a foam grip. But they make a really thin grip. And so it fits her hand really well. So that was part of the reason we went with it. You know, the suspension thing, it's there. I mean, it's an improvement, but I don't know if it's like a big improvement. I think they're great grips, by the way. I think they're fantastic grips. I have them on my cross-country whip. I bought a larger pair for my own mountain bike. I just took them off. I think that was probably too much grip, size-wise. Project 76, so if you run the bike computer here, these just glue on, so from Project 76. And then just Specialized, because she's left-handed, and they make a nice left entrance cage, so we can fit a nice full-size water bottle in here. When you do go from the RockShox, from the Fox DPX2 to the RockShox Super Deluxe, this is longer, this is a little bit bigger, so not quite, you know, not as big of a bottle by about that much, but she can still run a full-size bottle in there and everything is good. XL1 rear cassette. Two things you can make big improvements on a bike. I mean, suspension, all that, but two things that matter, and you should figure out what you like. One, know your cockpit and run your cockpit, and always run your cockpit. Messing with the grips and seat and all that a bunch is just, once you learn and everything's comfortable and fits, stick with it, because that stuff matters. But for her, we're running Michelin Wild AMs because they roll fast, they have great traction, they do really well at low pressure for her, and it's a tough tire. It can take a beating while still scooting across the dirt. So for her, this has been a great tire. You know, I wouldn't probably run it for her, and if she started riding a lot more in the wet, real wet, I'd probably peel it off and get a little better wet weather tire. But for hard pack and gravel and loose and loamy stuff, it's been a great tire. I ran it on my XC bike, and you could just terrorize dirt. It's a great tire. And then the other big thing for her and the other big thing you can do, ditch the factory brake pads. Pull them out, rub them in crap oil because they're going to work not much better oiled up or not. Throw them in the garbage can. Tell everybody they're ruined. Go to MTX Braking and buy yourself some real damn brake pads. Motorsport quality stuff, finally, for a mountain bike. You can take the most mediocre brakes in the world and they are going to incrementally improve so much just by changing the brake pad. She will tell you that instead of you yarding on the brakes and feeling like you're really grinding to slow down, it's all this nice control and modulation, and when you're not panicking on the brakes, you're in bike control. So this thing has MTX brake pads. She has reds. If you're a bigger rider, or if you're like you're just a brake jacker, go to their golds, you know, and you're going to be happy. But that's sort of a rundown of this bike. Again, it's a Brunch Ride. The front is 150 mil. The back is the 137 because it's the lunch ride. We did bring this back to 150. I'm not sure if Brunch Ride's a real term for it, but you know, we'll call it what we will. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet bike setup. I mean, she's rocking a pretty trick bike. Her new TRD helmet's all nicely sitting here, and she's got these nice Smith goggles for when the weather is bad. She's running just XTR pedals, actually. I will say I had Saint pedals on it, but for her, she felt like she clipped a little bit of stuff with them. Maybe she'll go back to them later. With the Ride Concept shoes, she runs a little bit bigger platform, but Ride Concept's such a great shoe. That transition clipless shoe is so awesome. You have so much protection, and she's not complained about issues with it being just on an XTR pedal, so we're just going to leave it like that for now. So that's a pretty good rundown. Oh, bash guard. She does have a bash guard, just an MRP bash guard. Yeti has such a long, this sort of design is really long, so it's good to have one because sometimes when you're scooting over stuff, that this piece is long enough. You want to get up on this as quick as possible because you are sort of feeling like you're gliding over it a little longer than on shorter tube, bottom tube bike. So, you know, that's the setup. There was a cascade link on this. For her, we yanked it off because raising her front end up and lowering her back end again, she's not tall enough. It doesn't get her over the front end. So, you know, we'll stick with the standard Yeti link. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is the wife's Yeti SB130 Brunch Ride, and it is a pretty sweet ride.